Hi guys, welcome. Danny here from the Magic Junk Drawer. So today I wanted to talk about self-esteem and self-worth and sticking up for yourself. I hope this is not sideways or anything crazy. Okay. So when it comes to things like the law of attraction and the universe in general, you're going to get back what you put out there, right? So if you feel bad about yourself, you're going to continue to draw in situations where you feel bad about yourself. If you feel bad about um, a certain feature that you have, say for example, you think that you have a really big nose, the universe will start to bring in situations that call out this big nose. And when in reality, sometimes somebody's most undesirable feature that they think they have turns into their biggest asset. Like the gap between Madonna's teeth, Elton John has that gap. Cindy Crawford talked about her mole. You know, all these different things that make us unique, and we may look at them as if they are some kind of a flaw. Other people see them as some kind of a, you can turn it into something unique and make you stand out, and it can be an asset. So with all of this self-talk and self-esteem kind of stuff, I am naturally a humble kind of a person. I really don't think that, like, when it comes to any of my talents, that I'm better than anyone else. I do think I have certain strengths, and I also think that I have plenty of weaknesses. Especially working in the school this year, I've definitely come to realize that there is no way I'm smarter than a fifth grader. But all of that aside, I do have a pretty strong sense of intuition. I'm really great when it comes to like astrology and tarot cards and things like that. I've studied that stuff all my life, and I've kind of cultivated those kind of things. So, sometimes we're just not good in one thing and we're better in something else. Math was never a strong suit for me. I mean, basic math, adding and subtracting, okay, but some of these crazy things they have these kids doing, I can't figure it out at all. And I was just thinking about, this is that lipstick that always gets all over my teeth. So I just want to make sure I have no lipstick on my teeth. So this situation I thought about because June 15th would have been my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. They were divorced long before my mom died, but I was thinking about it. For whatever reason, on June 15th, I was reminded of it. And June 15th is a bizarre date. There are a lot of things that happened on June 15th in my life. A lot of people I know, it's their birthday that have been in my life. When I got let go of my day job, it was June 15th. It's just a weird date for me. But anyhow, so I was thinking about it in 50 years, and it reminded me of this situation. When my grandparents had their 50th wedding anniversary, my uncle, now I have this uncle who is a shithead, whatever, you know what? It is what it is. And he threw my grandparents an anniversary party. I can't remember if it was a surprise party or not. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. At the time, my mom, and this was her brother, they weren't speaking. They weren't on speaking terms. And we were invited. I guess we were lucky that we were invited. And we went to the party. And and what gets me so annoyed with myself is that at the moment, I didn't think anything of it. And that really pisses me off about myself. So, I don't know, I guess we had dinner, there was dancing, whatever. And at some point in the night, my uncle made this big announcement about his parents, and that their grandchildren were going to talk about, have something to say about them. Well, his 3 children were called up to talk about them and given the microphone and make speeches. And my brother and I sat at the table, we sat there as if we were like the neighbor's kids or coworkers. And at the moment, I didn't even think anything of it. But it was like the daggers that were coming out of my mother's eyes. And it wasn't even until we got in the car and we were on our way home that, like, the smoke coming out of my mom's ears, the daggers coming out of her eyes, because she was like, my kids, not only are their grandchildren, but My children are the first grandchildren. So why weren't they even acknowledged like they were human beings? But if she didn't bring it up, I don't think my brother or I would have even realized. Like, we just literally sat there like two dummies. And it reminded me, when I was thinking about this the other day, of my nephews. Now, my older nephew, I say this all the time, and I hope that he changes, because I just see a lot of myself in him. And while I think that that makes him a good person, I don't want him to take shit. The little guy, let me tell you something. If the little guy was there and they called up grandparents and he wasn't called up, he would have knocked everyone out of his way and took the microphone and did what he had to do, because he takes no shit. It's just who he is. Maybe it's in their astrological charts. Now, I know their charts. One's a Gemini, Capricorn rising, Capricorn moon. The Capricorn in him kind of brings him down to earth. The other one is a Taurus, Sagittarius rising. So you know that what he's thinking comes right out his mouth. And he's an Aquarius moon. So he'll tell you what he thinks, not give a shit whether or not you like it, and it is what it is. And he's only 4, and you can see it in him already. We were at the diner one night. This kid, he's so funny. We're at the diner one night, and the waitress comes over to give out the desserts, and he doesn't have a dessert. You know, she gives us whatever. And he's like, hey, where's my cookie? Excuse me, I didn't get a cookie. And I just find it hysterical, because no one's ever going to get anything over on this kid, ever. Hi. I know, he's so funny. But when I look back, I'm like, not only did I not stand up for myself for not being acknowledged as a grandchild, but I didn't even think that there was anything wrong with that. I wasn't mad about it. I was just sitting there listening to everyone talk, like as if I was a neighbor or, you know, a coworker or a waitress. I mean, it was terrible. And I think about that a lot when I find myself in situations where I'm like, why is it that you can't put yourself first, or put yourself, you know, in a position where you are getting what you deserve, or being acknowledged for something that you did? Like, why is it that you just feel like you should be overlooked all the time? And it's something that I think about a lot, because if I could go back, would I have gotten up there and been like, excuse me, but I'm the first grandchild? Nobody was a grandparent until I showed up? I don't know. Maybe now, X amount of years later, I would be a little bit different. But back then, I was like, I literally sat at the table like I was a stranger. And my brother too. And I don't think either one of us thought anything was wrong until my mother was like, her head was blowing off in the car on the way home. Because she was like, that's damn disrespectful, you know? Anyway, you know what? You just got to take it from where it's coming from. I mean, people are assholes. And I always did believe in karma. Like, my whole life, I was always like, oh, it's going to come to light. Everything comes out in the wash. Everybody gets exposed for who they are. And then I got to a certain point where I was like, you know what? Maybe there is no such thing as karma. Because I see a lot of assholes walking around here doing really shitty things, and I don't see them paying for it. I see all these nice people getting pushed aside and getting taken advantage of, but I'm not really seeing the karma. But I don't know, maybe in some way or another it does come back. That's what we can hope for. Anyway, if that uncle happens to be watching, I have something here for him. Just want to make sure you see it. I don't know why I think it's so funny when people give each other the finger. I got to be like 4 years old. But I think it's so funny. And when somebody sends me that as an emoji, I crack up. I don't know why. My brother and I send it back and forth to each other all the time. It's hilarious. I don't know. Anyway. So anyhow, so here's the thing. You have to put yourself right. You're going to get back what you reflect. Or you're going to be reflected back what you're showing the universe, like a mirror. It's like a mirror. So if you want to be important, you have to be important to you. If you want to be special, number one, you have to put that out there, because if you're constantly standing behind someone who you think is more important than you, that's what's going to keep showing up in your reality. Just like if you have a zit on your nose and it's all you're focused on, everyone's going to always say to you, oh my God, what happened to your nose? What happened to your whatever? You have to focus on what you want more of and less of what you don't. And the feeling has to start inside you. And one of the hugest things that I've learned over studying the law of attraction, I'm with the people that I've used, this law of attraction coaches I've used, is to get out of that victim type of mind. So rather than thinking, well, that would never happen for me, I don't have that kind of luck, everybody else is more important, that would never work that way for me. Getting out of that mindset, which it's taken work. I have to say that. It's not easy. It didn't happen overnight. It took some time. And I started really getting serious about the law of attraction kind of stuff last February, when I started working with Veronica Isles. And I worked with her for quite some time, a really long time, I think. And one of the biggest things that it kept coming up, like we were doing email back and forth, and she kept pointing out this victim mentality. And also that I have this idea in my head that life isn't fair. And she was right about both of them. That's it was the truth. And I would say it all the time. Oh, you don't like it? Too bad. Life's not fair. And I think I got that from years ago. I remember watching, I think it may have been Celebrity Rehab or something like that. There was a show, it was with Dr. Drew. I remember it was Dr. Drew. And whoever the person was that was in the show, I don't remember, this person lost their father, and he never had a good relationship with him. And it was not that it was the cause of the drug addiction, but it was something that was part of the drug addiction. And I remember hearing them talk, and Dr. Drew said to him, you don't get that. You don't get to have a good relationship with your father. It's over. That's done. You have to put it behind you. You don't get that. And I think I kind of took that from what he said, kind of stuck with me when I felt like there was some situation that I couldn't change, like holiday weekends. Most frustrating thing for somebody that works 2 jobs, especially when one of them is in a grocery store, is, how was your holiday weekend? Well, I don't have a holiday weekend, because when I'm not in this freaking office, I'm in the grocery store. And don't ask, because that's where I am. And working in the grocery store, I always had the attitude, well, you don't get holidays. That's it. This is your life. You don't get holidays. You don't have any choice. You have to go to work. This is how it is. And I always kind of, that was just my way of dealing with it. I had a very tough way of dealing with it. You don't get that. It's not your choice. You don't have the luxury of having holiday weeks off. You don't deserve it. I kind of had that too. I had a lot of that. Not so much that I was being a victim, but in a way it was a little bit victim, especially if it was a holiday, like a family type of holiday, like Easter or something. I would be like, well, you don't have anywhere to go anyway, so you may as well go to work. Let somebody else have the holiday that has a family. You don't have anyone. Nobody wants you around. That would be that's the way I would get through it. I would just be like, well, I don't really have anywhere to go anyway, so why don't I just work this way? Somebody who wants the day off and has somewhere to go can have it. So that's kind of victimish, because even if I chose to stay home alone and do nothing, I still could have had the time off rather than closing the freaking store for every holiday. And I was there just about every holiday. So I see, when I look back on my life, and I think we all can, with how we sort of created what we lived out. There were a lot of times where that was just my attitude. You have to do what you have to do. You can't afford to take time off. You need the time and a half on the holiday. Go to work. What else are you going to be doing anyway? That was my attitude. So trying to change all of that, because the truth is, you can manifest more money, you can manifest more time, you can make all these things happen and not be victimized by the situation. And you have it all if you change the way you think about the situation. And I think that's the whole thing. I got very, very caught up in this idea that my world was locked into the way it was and there was no way of changing it. And I can understand why I fell into that, because it was for 14 years that I was working full-time and part-time. And then there were some times, like there were some years where I worked at A&P a lot. There were some years where I didn't work that much. I worked minimal. But I was always working a minimum of 56 hours a week, a minimum. Most of the time I was working closer to 65, 70. So I can see, right, why I had this and why I kept cultivating more of it. So learning how to change that is a huge process. You know, it's not something that happened for me overnight. So if you don't feel like you got a handle on it yet, don't worry. Just keep at it. Like that's what I keep trying to do to myself. Every time I feel like a situation in my head is starting to go sour, I try to change it around. And I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. This is what's gonna happen. And I try to change it around, because at the end of the day, things can work out. I mean, people, you know, it's so funny because like you hear all these stories of people like they won the lotto and then all of a sudden they're broke. All these famous people that make so much money, millions and millions of dollars, and they're broke. And then you hear about people that came from nothing. You know, they came from nothing. And then all of a sudden they're like, I just think of Dr. Ben Carson. He came from a single mom. I don't think he lived in a good neighborhood. I think it was very rough for him growing up. But he grew up to be a brain surgeon, okay? So if he can do it, right? It's not like the odds were stacked in his favor, but he was able to do it. So to me, it's like if we can get out of our own way and stop thinking that, well, I don't have the opportunity and it's because I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly. You know, I hear all these things. That's not true, because that's in your head. It's not in the rest of the people's heads. And those people that do, because listen, sometimes people say things that they really fucking fire me up. I was watching, I think her name is Sydney. She's got a huge YouTube channel. I don't know how she came up in my feed, but I was so disgusted listening to this because I just don't know where people come off. This girl she's a black girl and she's very pretty, and she has crystal clear blue eyes. And she was saying in the video, that's what the name of the video was, Why Are My Eyes Blue, or something like that. So she was saying that her whole life her eyes have been blue, so she never really questioned it. It was just who she was. And, you know, growing up, people are such assholes, and I totally sympathize because I get that all the time. Oh, you must be this. Oh, you have to be that. Oh, there's no way that you're Italian. Okay, fucko, I had my DNA done. I don't know what you want me to tell you, but that's what the DNA test came back with. My grandparents, like my grandfather's parents, my grandfather was the only child born here. His parents came here from Italy. Obviously, I'm fucking Italian. Okay, you can say whatever you think I am, but this is what I am. So I was so fired up because what she said was the reason why she believes her eyes are blue, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right. She was having a hard time pronouncing it too. If I can find the video, I'll put it in the description box. She thinks that she has Waardenburg syndrome or something like that. I think it's something like that. It's a syndrome where there is a chromosome abnormality or variation or whatever it was that produces people to have very light eyes. And the reason why she thinks that she has that is because one of the symptoms was they tend to have people that are deaf. That tends to be a symptom, and she has deafness in one ear. But the comments that these people would make at her, and she was putting up the comments so you could see them. You wouldn't be so pretty if your eyes weren't blue. Are your sisters jealous of you because you have blue eyes? Why do you wear contact lenses? You should just be natural and love who you are. Like, where do these people come off? Like, I was just so upset for this girl. I mean, and like I said, I get it, because people have done that to me my whole life. Oh, there's no way you're Italian. Oh, you have to be this, this, and that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not. My pie chart was the most boring pie chart you'll ever meet, but this is what it is. And the same thing with her. Like, people were saying that she had to be European. But she isn't. No, you don't have to be European. You are who you are. And who gives a shit where your grandparents were born or their parents? But just the audacity of people. Can you imagine it? You wouldn't be so pretty. Who says that to someone? Meanwhile, she's a beautiful girl. I mean, I was just getting so fired up. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if people just have like big balls because they're behind a computer screen. Would you say that to somebody in person? Now, her mom has a brown eye and a blue eye. And I think that that's cool. I worked with a guy who had a brown eye and a blue eye. His were like the same hue though. Hers were like, one was like a really crystal blue and the other eye was like close to black. But it makes you unique when you have something different like that. Why do we all want to be the same? It's fucking boring. I'm going to look for a video and put it in the description box. Because I just can't believe that people talk to each other like that. How dare you? I mean, really? Why are you trying to be someone you're not? First of all, how boring would life be if we didn't do different things? Like, first of all, let me tell you something. I think that it's so much easier, too, to just throw on one of these wigs. But it's different. What do you want to look at me the same for every day? What do you want to, I mean, it's different. Who gives a shit? It's creative. Who cares? It doesn't mean that you don't like what you have. You're just enhancing it. The only time that I would think that there is a problem with that kind of stuff is if you go really extreme. You know, like somebody that's had so much work on top of so much work that they don't even look like themselves anymore. But if you wanted to do something, whatever. Listen, life is too short to be unhappy. Do what you want to do, you know, whatever. Anyway, I was just getting fired up with that. But some people that have a really healthy self-esteem, it just rolls off their back. Other people can really take that stuff to heart. And it could also depend on the day. Like, I've had people say some pretty shitty ass things to me. And I'm like, who talks to people like that? How dare you? You assholes. Whatever. Going off on a rant. But, you know, once again, if these things are being reflected back to us, then we have to kind of watch what we're putting out there. So who knows? Maybe some of us, maybe in me, maybe it's my own self-conscious way. Like, maybe I'm putting that out there. Oh my God, I wonder what they think of me. Oh my God, maybe they don't like me because of X, Y, Z. Maybe it's me focusing on all of my insecurities about whatever it is. And then these people are just calling them out, right? That could be. That's if we're creating every situation that we're in, then that's exactly what's happening. I'm focusing on what makes me insecure or what makes me question myself, and other people are bringing that out to me. Anyhow, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the self-esteem and the self-talk and self-management only because you want to watch what you're putting out there and all these situations. So when you find yourself in a situation, I know I spoke about this one before, waiting online at the grocery store or at CVS or wherever, and they call over the next person. If the person behind me goes over, I would never be like, oh, excuse me, I'm next. I just wouldn't do that. It's not me. I don't do things like that. I would just wait. But I was next. Why is it that I can't stick up for myself? How come I never learned how to stick up for myself, what I need, and what is important to me? Now that's a simple example. Now me being not called the next, me having to wait an extra 2 minutes is not going to change my whole life. But think about the other situations that I've been in or that you've been in where it maybe made a big difference in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like what's fair is fair and what's right is right. And some people have that overly entitled attitude, and some people have they're not entitled to anything. And remember, you're putting out there, all right, you're going to get it back. So it's very interesting to me when I start thinking about these situations. And I have 7 planets in air signs, so it's very hard for me to keep my mind from not wandering. Like I'm thinking all the time and analyzing and reanalyzing. So it's like it's always churning. So these situations come up and I always think to myself, why didn't I say this? Or why didn't I stick up for myself? Like I've had people say, another situation that I remember, one of my friends, when we were working at A&P, she got married, and when she came back from her honeymoon, she brought in the photo albums to show us the pictures. So I was at the desk looking at the photo albums, and one of the butchers came up, and this is what he said. Now, I'm a good couple of years older than her, but so what? Who cares? What difference is it how old I am? He said, this is what he said to me. He said, you see, look at you. Look at what you missed. Don't you wish you had this? And he was pointing to the wedding album. First of all, asshole, it's not like I still can't get married. And a wedding is not important to me. A wedding is not important to me. A honeymoon is not important to me. Real relationships with real meaning and intimacy with the people that are closest to me, that's important to me. And I hate to say this, but our whole life has gone from being very simple. Like my grandparents, when they got married, my grandmother said that her mother made finger sandwiches. That was their wedding. It was in somebody's house. Okay, there was no ice sculpture, there was no cocktail party, there was no stay at the hotel and party for 3 days later. That didn't happen. It's like these days, all we want is a show of bullshit, when meanwhile, what is really underneath all of this? It's the same thing with social media. We want to have this pretend fairy tale life on social media, but behind the scenes, that's not what's going on. Now, me personally, I would rather not have that and have something real. And I'm very quiet and private about my personal life because I don't want to share that with everyone. I'm sorry. I don't think that you need to see what goes on in my personal life because it's for me and that person. It's not for the whole world. So, and that's just me. Like I don't put pictures of myself making out with anybody because I don't think that I don't want other people to see that. It's not their business. It's my business. Okay? But, that's the whole thing. So, that's about it for today. I've done enough ranting and raving. And if you like what we're doing here at the Magic Junk Drawer, don't forget to like and subscribe, share us with your friends. We will see you soon. And if you have any questions or comments below, if you want to give me the middle finger emoji, I would love that. All right, I'll talk to you.